iRacing has dropped a really big development update just a few weeks before their December build, and I think in terms of new content, and I'm not exaggerating, it is maybe the best ever update for road racers. There's a heap of new cars as well as a bunch of future little updates, like a new tyre model that they're working on. I've gone through the entire update and I've quickly summarized it into a few things that you need to know. For starters, let's look at the new content that will be joining iRacing in the 2025 Season 1 build, which comes out around about the start of December. The first one are the Supercars. These are the V8 Supercars in Australia. Gen 3 is coming to iRacing, both the Ford Mustang and the Chevy Camaro. These cars are great. I rate the Supercar. I think it's a great series to race. I've raced it so much. And I think these Gen 3 cars will move around a little bit more than the previous cars as they have less aero grip, so it might be a little bit more difficult to drive, but still lots of fun. For equality and all that, in iRacing at the moment, the Ford and the Holden are identical. It's similar to how the NASCARs are, like they look different, but they sound and they drive exactly the same. For example, you could take a setup from the Ford and put it on the Holden, and it will drive identically. The new Gen 3 cars, though, have different layouts of engine, and I'm interested to see how iRacing is going to do that. Are they going to model both types of engine, or are they just going to, use one? I don't really know what we're going to see. I'm guessing that they're going to keep the cars identical, but we'll have to wait and see. There is also a credit for this car. If you buy the current supercar within the 12 months of the launch of this new Gen 3 supercar, you'll get a credit. So if you've never driven the supercar, you should buy the current one, drive it, and then you'll get the new one as well. Well, you'll get a credit for this one, then you'll have to buy the new one, but basically 2 cars for 1, so that's good. A new car this build is the BMW M2 CSR. Now this is new content at a rookie level, which means it is free. And this car is sort of a production car, I would say, with lots of extra racing bits added to it. And it'll sit somewhere between the MX-5s and the GT4 car. This should be fun to drive. It might be a little loose, it might move around a little bit, might not, I'm sure. We'll have to wait and see, but everyone will get this, so you'll all get to drive it very soon. Another new car this build is the Honda NSX GT3 car. This is the Evo 22, and this is a brand new GT3 car, and it's based on the Road NSX. Unbelievably, this is the 10th GT3 car that you can now race at the moment in GT3 Sprint, which is wild. I feel like it was yesterday that you could only drive only 6 cars, so that's exciting. And I think this car will be fun. In some other sims, I think it turns really well. It feels like it has kind of a short wheelbase kind of style to it. I'm not sure how it will feel in iRacing. We'll have to wait and see. Probably the biggest car of this update for a lot of people is going to be the Ferrari 499p. This is a GTP car. This is pretty crazy that iRacing has got this car. It's been exclusive, well not exclusive, but it's been on Le Mans Ultimate for a little bit, and it'll join the current 4 GTPs in the IMSA series in iRacing. I'm really excited to drive this car. I think it will be, I think it'll be fun. It has an awesome sounding engine. I loved driving it in Le Mans Ultimate, and I think it'll be fun in iRacing. There is one new road track coming this season, and it is in the UK, and that's called Thruxton. This one, I remember being super flat and very high speed from playing it in the old Toka games. And honestly, in classic UK style, this is built around an airfield, like all tracks in the UK seem to be. And apparently you can drive on the infield in-game, in the middle of the track. So you can do that just for the memes. Assetto Speedway is also joining the service. This is a pretty popular dirt oval track on World of Outlaws and stuff like that. This is another one for the collection. It'll also make its way to the World of Outlaws console game if you play that as future DLC. New Hampshire Motor Speedway is also receiving a full refresh. It's free if you already own the track. This one's a bit wild. The road course goes outside the track for New Hampshire. I'm sure it'll look great. This one was scanned back in 2009 or even earlier. So a really cool refresh there. And Las Vegas Motor Speedway is apparently also being refreshed. They're pretty 50-50 on if it'll make this build, but if it does, like New Hampshire, it'll be fully rebuilt with new scan and new assets and all of that. So that is 2 new tracks, 2 refreshed tracks potentially, and 5 new cars that will be joining in the new build. So I think content-wise, people are going to be super happy. I think there's a lot to drive. I'm super stoked with it, for sure. There is also a bunch of updates that will be happening under the hood in this build. The first one is called Debris Refresh. This is based around the debris system in iRacing. You'll mostly see this with dirt and mud being kind of like thrown onto the track. iRacing used an example in real life when you drive on the Mulsanne down Le Mans. In real life, all sorts of debris and stuff gets like picked up on the side of the road and you don't want to drive there because you could damage your car. In iRacing, that doesn't exist, so you can drive wherever you want. But we'll see. Hopefully this might change that. I'm not quite sure, but we'll have to see. They also teased that in the future, this could potentially offer tyre-related features, including things like punctures, which is scary. It's not in this build, but maybe in the future. Dave Kamer and the team have also been in the kitchen cooking up a new tyre model, and a large enhancement is on its way in this build for the GTP cars and the LMP2. The NASCAR cars are also being worked on for a later update. Apparently, this tyre enhancement will have improved dynamic response. The example they used is that it'll respond quicker when the tyre first loads up, and they'll soften up as the load increases, as you lean on the tyre more. It seems like this will make the cars feel more responsive. This also has benefits with degradation, and they're introducing a new degradation mechanic called the long-term conditioning state. It should mean that the tyres naturally get worse as you drive on them and use them, which means they're less reliant on using heat to show that you're losing grip. Supposedly, in my head, this means that if you like completely fry a tyre, it doesn't stay completely cooked at like 1,000,000 degrees for the rest of the race, but we'll have to see. They've also updated the compounds and the construction of the tyre to be a little softer and grippier. There is also an entire tyre model update, which will be version 10 of their tyre model, which is wild. I remember like NTM V1. But I'll get to that in a sec. It's not coming in this build, the full tyre update, but we'll go through it in a sec. This build though, there will be an update to the graphics engine with the specular lighting model. They're also no longer rendering specular into the cube map, whatever that means. Additionally, they're working on correcting the yellowness you see in the iRacing world. I'm excited to see what this looks like. iRacing sometimes looks a little yellow. There's some before and after images on the graphics update. The new one on the right looks a little brighter. I think the highlights look a little bit more bright. And the final update that they've announced is bump starts for GTP cars. So GTP cars have a hybrid system, of course, and a battery, which means that when they drive out of their pit box, they drive just on the battery, and then it bump starts the ICE engine, or just ICE, just using the battery basically. This sounds really cool. They've included a sound of this happening. This exists in other sims already, but it'll be cool to see it in the iRacing. So that's everything that has been announced for this build. But iRacing also released a bunch of information on things that they're working on for the next build. The first one was the new sim UI. So this was teased previously and will apparently launch in March. I'm assuming 2025, not 2026. And this is a pretty large update. Like, considering that the current black boxes and the in-sim UI looks pretty much the same as it did in 2009, I would say the new UI gives a lot of like Race Labs vibes, and it should be a lot more welcoming for new users. They've also planned future kind of functionality, so it'll have like dynamic track maps, there could be multiple black boxes you could have on screen, there could be in-sim telemetry, and much more that I'm sure we'll see at some point. The graphics itself in iRacing are also being worked on for a future graphics engine that they're saying they are building themselves. No Unreal Engine here, iRacing's doing it in-house. And it already looks way better than it previously did. We saw this like a couple of weeks ago and it looks pretty like WIP, you know? And it already looks really good. It's being the first time it's showed in a deferred renderer, which is apparently a big deal. I think it looks great, honestly. The graphics definitely needs an update, especially with like AC Evo coming out in the next couple of months. That's gonna look crazy good. So we'll see what iRacing cooks up. Now, going back to the tyre model, there is a bunch of really interesting information included in this development update, and I recommend reading it if you're a tyre nerd or you like work for Michelin or something. But basically, tyre model V10 will feature double precision physics calculations, which also means nothing to me, but sounds very fancy. And it'll feature better force feedback with a new calibration tool. It'll also have better contact patch modeling with more like slices of the tyre, handling heat and conditioning and all of that stuff. There is apparently better tyre shape, better tyre compound modeling, better grip model for better multi-groove and polish, better modeled heat buildup and tire memory, and better moments, which is a fancy engineering term for like when a thing happens. I can't really describe it, but it's cool. It's a good update. It should be. I'm excited to see it. They went into a lot of detail on this stuff, and their new car builder internal tool that they're using for making physics, it sounds like it'll help build nice feeling cars like quicker in the future. They went into a bunch of detail about their staff as well. Like they're hiring mostly people from motorsport and like who know how cars work, vehicle dynamics, and teaching them how to code, which is really interesting. I don't know if it's possible to create a perfect tire model in the world. I see people all over the world every day pointing at like 6 different sims being like, that sim's the best and that sim sucks and that tire's the best and this one's bad. And yeah, I'm excited to see what iRacing does. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun to drive. iRacing also announced that they're working on Portland and Miami, which is the F1 track, and I'm sure we'll see those real soon. Some other updates, iRacing is also scanning a Gen 4 stock car, a bunch of ARCA cars, a new Legend, and they're working on an IndyCar physics update as well. Also, apparently they're going to collaborate with Ferrari more on new things. Mamma mia, that sounds really good. There's so much stuff. There is updates to the UI series pages, which will be coming in this build. There's a race control system that's going to be updated, which means maybe no more insane like multi-class free-for-all starts. There's a save game feature that they're working on for the future, and a full career mode. There's a bunch of updates, and I recommend reading the full build if you want to go into a little bit more detail on everything. So that's the development update for Season 1 2025. I will be driving the build when it comes out, and I'll be driving all of these cars. I cannot wait. I'll be probably putting a video out straight away, so make sure you just subscribe to Overtake to see that when it happens. Otherwise, if you liked the video, feel free to leave a like and let me know in the comments your thoughts. What are you excited for? Are you going to drive the Gen 3 car? What are you going to get? Are you going to get the Mustang or the Camaro? I don't actually know what I'm going to get. I can't tell. They both kind of look pretty good. We'll have to see. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.